Welcome back to the No Name Yet Quilt Along. Today's block is a difficult one. It is called the Triple Triangle Star. It uses the most variety of fabrics. You're going to use black and white as well as the rainbow spectrum of fabrics. So first of all, on your templates, you're going to print off 2 pages. I will pin in the first comment below the blog post that contains that. The piece that I'm measuring right now, when you print this off, you need to make sure that that measures 2 inches. If it does not, you need to adjust your printer settings. And you can also measure across the hexagon. That will measure 3.5 inches from flat side to flat side. Now here I am trying to determine if I can use my triangle templates. So the little bitty piece D for the triangle, it only measures 1 inch across, and the other piece measures 3.5 inches. So you're going to cut your strips, and there'll be more on this in a minute. But here is the rainbow of colors I've selected, and make sure you pre-start your fabrics. You will need to go ahead and cut out all of your template pieces. If you have a hexagon template, use it. And you're going to make 2 of each. So I'm going to cut 2 B's and 2 A's. Hopefully my pieces stayed mated, and they didn't. Gosh, that happens. And if you have templates that will make this, by golly, use them. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and make that funny notch at the end. So I have 1 A and B, and then I can have another piece of A and B just by making this cut. Alright. And now I'm going to cut the center, which is piece E, which is the hexagon. From straight edge to straight edge, it's 3.5. So you're gonna need a 3.5 inch square to cut this out. Let's see. So according to this is a 3.5 inch hexagon. I'm going to use the template. I've had this for quite a while. I've made a quilt out of it, and I find it very difficult to use. If you want to use yours, you would line it up on the 3.5 inch cut here and here. You would make this cut, and then you would flip it over and make the other cut. I'm going to use the template provided. That we're fixing to cut off for one of the little triangles we have to cut. We have to cut a bunch of these. And darn, it didn't cut straight. Alright, let me flip it around. Golly. It may help if you take a little bit of glue stick, I guess, and glue this to your piece so it doesn't shift. This is the first time I've had problems, so there must be something in the air. All right. I have my center and I have my chisels. Now there's one more piece we need to cut out of the black besides our triangles. And that's piece C and D. And that piece D, those triangles, those are tiny. I recommend you pre-starch all your fabrics before you sew any of these together. And fix that. So we're going to need 2 of piece C, and I'm going to get that light laid out, and then I am going to use this. There's one. And I just changed out my rotary cutter. I found it was getting dull. And that little bitty area of fabric that's gone is not going to matter because that's all in the seam allowance. So I'm going to use this piece. And now let me count how many of the little triangles we need to cut out. So we're done cutting the black. So again, let's review. You're going to cut 2 of piece C, 1 of piece E, 2 of piece A, and 2 of piece B. Gosh. And now we're ready to move on to the color. Now I'm going to give you some advice. When you select your rainbow of color for this block, you want to look at the print at this scale. So from the tip to the straight edge is 1/2 inch. So let's pull the red I have selected. I may have to change my red. If you want it to be a true rainbow fashion, you need to take and put this on your print. So let's see, 1/2 inch. It still shows red, so I'm okay to use this. I want it to actually be a rainbow color to match the pictorial in the quilt. But it's a good idea if you're unsure. You can always cut this piece D and cut the window out of it and then place it on your fabric after you've cut it. Let's do that. And it'll give you the best idea about what fabric to use. And we don't have to cut this out perfect because we're not going to be doing any measurement for piecing on the inside of this. Okay. So when I lay this on the fabric, it still shows red. Now this is going to be up against a white. So when I cut these out, if I have white up against it, like that piece, this might become a problem where you will lose the red into the white. It is what it is. It's your scraps. Use what you have. All right, so these pieces are going to be made from 1-inch strips. So I'm going to cut all of my colors and my white background all 1 inch. And then I'll get to the quantities of these. So from each colorway, you're going to cut 3 triangles. And these are equilateral triangles. So if you have an equilateral ruler, you certainly can use it. And I'm gonna leave my corners on. I may trim those off later, but the template is showing you to remove the bulk out of those seam allowances, and it will help your block lay flatter if you do that. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do that for each of these colors, and then I am going to cut 6 of the white for each colorway. So 6 times 2, 4, 6, you're going to cut 36 of these out of the white. This is a very time-consuming block. It is probably one of the most time-consuming and the most colorful blocks we'll be doing for the quilt along. Okay, I have chosen the purple to demonstrate, and so you're going to do this for each colorway. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew pairs of these together, and then I'll make my rows. And you can do rows like this. Let's see, which way will be easier? I don't think it's going to matter. Do it however you like. I'm going to sew mine in rows, and then I'll come back to the camera. Okay, so I've sewn this piece, and it's going to be a good idea to trim your doggy ears. So I'm just going to line it up with the edge and trim them off. That gets rid of the extra bulk and then allows me to sew the next piece in the row. All right, a little hint for this also, when you start stitching your pieces together, it should be in the Y of the two fabrics coming together. If it's not, you need to either shift it up or down. And you are pressing to the dark side on all of the pieces. And trim that dog ear, and then I'm ready to join my rows. This might be tricky. So because I pressed to the dark side, the white seam is nesting perfectly with the dark seam down below. So I know I have these placed properly, and I'll go ahead and sew. Pressing on this, I'm going to go ahead and press down, that way I don't have to trim the dog ears. Look at how small that is. And then I have my cap to sew on. And this last row, I am also going to press it down. Although you can press it up, I'm afraid that that purple is going to show through. So I'm going to press that one down as well. And then I'm going to take this to the iron and give it a good press. And what is the measurement of this? It looks like it should measure. Okay, so I have sewn my purple block, and according to the pattern, my purple one goes here. So my next one will be the blue one, and I'll sew it here. I'm just going to sew my purple one I just made to my piece C. Because it will form a straight line to where I'll be also able to sew it to piece A. Okay, here's my piece C. Again, ignore that little spot that's missing. I am going to line up my raw edges. And I'm going to stitch straight across. Now, if you look, this end is overhanging by more than 1/4 of an inch. That is because we have funny angles on this that we have to sew to the next piece. So I'm not going to worry so much about that. Okay, I am going to press to the dark side. And so that is piece D. So piece A will actually sew across here. Like so. I'm going to now take the time to trim that off because yes, it was not the right size. I wonder if EQ8, so interesting. It's showing 2 1/4, and this measures 2 1/4. So I did not place this on here right. So let me do it right. So the correct way, I believe, to place this is 1/4 inch. Yeah, because I have all these funny angles coming together. I'm going to measure, I'm going to align this edge to the 1/4 inch, which I've already have my stitching line there, so I know exactly where I need to put it. And then I'm going to stitch down. Okay, and now this edge is straight and this edge is not, but that's okay. It will fix it. All right. Now I'm going to sew the chisel onto this, and I'm just going to line up this edge and this edge. And again, there's going to be extra. I think that EQ8's templates are screwy. All right. And it looks like I would be safe in taking these 2 straight edges and trimming off my excess. That's what I'm going to do. Will I lose points? Yep. All right, and now we're ready for I'm going to go ahead and do red and get that piece sewn to piece E. So let me do my red one. Okay, so I have my red one sewn, and I'm wondering if these should be 2 inches across. It's 2. That's 2. So maybe this block was too big, and that's 2. So my next step, I've made my red one, and now I'm going to sew it to one of the sides of the hexagon. And I'm going to line this up. I'm probably going to line up that. This is where precision on this is everything. Alright, and I'm going to sew. I'm going to press to the dark side. The next one I want to make is going to be my blue one. And I'll get that one pieced and then sewn to this to where I have a straight line right here. So no Y seams on this. Great news. Okay, I have my blue sewn, so I'm gonna take the time right now to overhang this about 1/4 inch. And hey, if you have to mark it, mark it. If it helps you at all with your block precision, mark it. All right. And this one turned out just a little bit bigger, and it's probably how I am pressing it. I pressed this one differently. I pressed everything up. So maybe that made a difference.
Okay. So now I can join this hunk to this hunk. And yeah, this is a whole lot better than what I thought it'd be. So how to line this up? Good question. I know I need to match my raw edge down here. And this one, my raw edge is not gonna match, so that was my bigger triangle. And then hopefully everything in the middle meets where it's supposed to. There's so much bulk in these triangle pieces because they're so small that this whole block ends up being seam allowance. Okay, it's matching where it needs to match in the center, so I'm okay with that. Yes, I lost my points on my purple triangles, but these pieces are so small, I'm not going to worry about it. Now, how to press this? Well, it looks like I'm going to press towards the purple because that's going to be the path of least resistance. Let me take it and go press it. This one's going to probably need a clapper if y'all have a clapper. Maybe I could get away with snipping. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to snip. I'm going to snip the top triangles to get this, and then the bottom triangle to get this to kind of lay flat. This will help. It's going to create bulk here, but it's not going to be as bad. And it's coming together. So I'm going to repeat what I have done for this other side. So I'm going to sew my orange block, and I'm going to then sew it to my C block, just like I did here. And then my yellow block, I'm going to sew here. So if you want to do this step all at once, your red block will sew here, your yellow block will sew here, and your blue block will sew here. And then that will give you a triangle to where you can sew the rest of your triangles on. Okay, so no Y seams. I have this piece to join, and I have this piece to join. This was not as difficult of a block as I thought it'd be. Yes, I lost some points, but you know what? I did it. I have worked on this now for a couple of hours, and I like it. Okay, so I'm finding that this works. So right where my blacks and my whites come together with my triangles, if I trim the seam allowance and just snip it, but not snip through, then this block will lay flat. Let me give it a good press. Oh my goodness, I've made the biggest mess making this block. So it should measure 6.5 by 6.5, and I am over on a couple sides, and I'm just a smidge under on a couple sides. So I'm considering this a success. I have made the biggest mess, all those dog ear trimmings, wow. But I don't know. The name of this is called Triple Triangle Star. It reminds me of Chinese checkers, which probably is considered a racist term now, so I can't call it that. I don't want to offend anyone. But I really like this, and it's a Jewish star as well. I really like it, and I'm glad that I selected a hard block because I have grown as a quilter. You can clearly see the colors. was worried about this one, but I have enough scraps. I can fussy cut it to where I don't lose my diamonds. I selected a really bright yellow, so I knew that I wouldn't lose my yellow. I was worried about it kind of getting lost with the off-white fabric that I selected. Yes, now I have to make this again for the second quilt that I'm making. And I'm not dreading it. This is a success. I would allocate plenty of time, and I found that the triangles that I cut with precision are the ones that I didn't lose my points on. So my blue, my green, and my red were my most successful ones. I guess that's because of how I used this and made sure that my cutting was accurate, because everything turned out. And yay, no Y seams. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this block. I know that some people watch my videos and they like watching, but they're not sewing along. I think that this would be awesome made into like a 12-inch block, because you'd have bigger pieces and it would be easier to work with. Tell me in the comments if you would be interested in making this at this size or as a 12-inch block. Thanks for watching.